What's up, guys? If you're watching this, that means you became a member of my channel or a patron of my Patreon, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. This is going to be the first of many videos that I'm going to release over the course of the rest of my career, hopefully. Anyway, today, the very first video that I'm going to do is going to cover suede care, sneaker suede care specifically. So as a professional cleaner, somebody's paying you money to clean their suede or nubuck shoes. They expect to get it back clean. And there's some tough stains out there. There's some really poor condition suede. Now for my example today, we're going to be using this Nike SB Dunk Low Skeletor Dunk. And it is in very poor condition. I'll show you the lot of water damage, a lot of stains going on here. Now, what we do here today is not going to completely fix it, but at the very least, you can get an idea of, ew, did this guy put a sock in here? Gross. That's not my sock. That's gross. That was gross. Gloves. Okay, first of all, you're going to want a shoe tree typically. Now, I don't use shoe trees. I use shoe lasts. Shoe lasts are a lot more expensive, but you only need to buy it once in that size. So I'm going to put this in a last real quick. Okay, so you can see the reason why I use shoe last instead of shoe trees is because it fills up the whole shoe. So it gives you a nice, good, hard surface to work on the entire shoe. Where a shoe tree, you're going to have some pressure here, maybe some pressure here, but everything else you're going to be able to just kind of push in. So I like this pressure, and there's a couple other reasons why I like this, but we'll cover that later. Anyway, we're going to just use this shoe as an example for what I do when I receive a suede or nubuck shoe to clean. This is my kit. There's some things in here you're going to expect to see, and there's some things in here that, you know, are unconventional, but I find really work really well. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to want to do is score it. You're going to need some kind of a hard surface that's not sharp. So this is a cuticle pusher. This is an idea that I got from a YouTube short that I saw. But what I learned is that you don't really need a cuticle pusher, okay? You don't specifically need this. What you need is a hard edge that is going to brush up that suede, but it's not gonna cut into the skin. We'll work on one specific area. Let's work on, because I actually want to keep a lot of this dirty for a video. So, I know, but this is still pretty dirty. You can see that there's dirt, there's water damage. Yeah, so we'll do this section here. Okay. Now, first thing that I like to do is score it, which means I am going to be scratching this, the nap on the suede up. Now, I am not pushing very hard. I'm trying to let the edge kind of do its thing. I am going to go in lots of different directions here, because I really want to try to get this nap to come up at every angle. Now, this is what you do for, this is how I start when there's serious water damage, like there is here, but also if somebody's paying you to clean their suede shoe, there's probably a lot of water damage. You know, that's probably the first issue. Just trying to basically go north, south, east, west, and then everything in between. The edges here where there's thread, I still like to do the edge. I can zoom in a little more there. Yeah, I still like to do the edge. I'll just press down on it, but be careful with the threads, and obviously be careful with any other material that you're not trying to, you know, score. If I think I can do it, I'll try to pick up some stuff between the threads. But if the threads are too close, don't, because you don't want to fray the threads. Okay. Any type of nylon brush. This one I used on a Strangelove, so some of my stuff is stained pink, but I do have backups. So this is basically just my Strangelove stuff. But any nylon brush, it doesn't have to be from Rejuvenator, but we'll get into that later. You can find shoe brushes. I have a link in the description in my video for cheaper shoe brushes that do the same thing. So this is a medium strength nylon shoe brush, and right now I'm just using it to get rid of basically the suede dust that came up when I did that. And it also does help brush a little bit. So that's the first thing I do. The second thing I do, you know, which is an eraser. Now, I actually erase because this is a professional job. You're trying to make sure that it looks really, really nice. I basically erase, I do some type of erase action 3 different ways. So the first way I do it is with this eraser. This eraser is from a company called Pedag. And Pedag is like a premium leather care company, and they have a bunch of other stuff, but I just like their eraser. It's very durable. It's kind of gritty. I don't know if we're picking up, there's a nice dark stain right here. So I'm going to focus a lot of attention on that. And also on the edge. The edge is totally dark. It's totally stained. No, I don't want you to expect to get these. Okay, you're good. I don't want you to expect to get these hard stains out on your first go through. You're going to be using a lot of elbow grease to get these shoes looking good. You're going to be doing what I'm doing right now. I do it 2, 3, 4 times. However many times it takes to get the shoe looking pristine, I cycle through all these steps. Alright, just going to brush off that eraser dust. So the next thing I do is, this is an eraser kit. This is a suede kit that you could actually buy from Walmart. The local super Walmarts here in the Midwest already carry these, but there's some Walmarts, I guess, that don't. They're sold out online. I've only seen this called a suede brush, even though it's really not a brush. This is rubber. And I've seen them made in rubber, and I've seen them made in the more natural rubber, which they call crepe. And either is going to work just fine. Crepe is also what they use to make these glue erasers. That's crepe. That's basically, they took the sap out of the rubber trees, they let it dry and added something to it, and then they smashed it together, and then that's it. You know, like rubber goes through a lot of steps for something like this or something else, but this is basically just as raw as you can get as a consumer. Anyway, it's rubber. Okay, so what I do here is this side is for Suede, this side is for Nubuck. The Nubuck side, the gray side, has little crystals in it. So it's a little bit, it has grit, a little bit of grit in there, you know, like sandpaper. You can see I used this for the Strangelove, but I'll use a part that I didn't use for the Strangelove. Now, here is this rubber brush with these strange little shapes here, but this really works really well getting large surface areas and pulling up a lot of nap. This pulls up a lot of nap because it has a lot of rubber surface area to do so, and because of the friction. I guess I just described to you how an eraser works, and I'm sure you know how that works, so forget what I just said just then. Okay, now I'm going to go to what you know as a Suede brush. Now the Suede brush, if you don't know, has rubber in different forms. This rubber form here is good for just flat surface areas. You'll see the indentations that it makes right there. It's good for picking up the Suede. So this is like the 1, 2, 3. This is the 4th type of eraser that I use on the Suede. And these other different shapes are for different areas. Suppose you're trying to get above the swoosh here. This is great for that, especially if this is the only thing that's Suede and this is leather and this is leather, or other materials that you don't want to really mess with. This is nice and gentle when it rubs up against them. So this is cool. And then this is for very thin areas. One thing I can think of is here on the vamp. This is great for that. Getting right in that area, especially if this is leather or some other material you don't want to touch. This is great for that. Okay, so I'm going to use, since I have the surface area here, I'm going to use the back and just brush it in all different ways. All right. Now, the other side has these brass bristles, and the brass bristles are surrounded by nylon bristles. These nylon bristles are basically to protect parts of the shoe that you're not trying to brush with brass. Sometimes brass will discolor certain things, like TPUs, plastics, some rubbers. So it's basically a guardrail for the brass. Now, when using the brass brush, I want to make sure that I'm not getting on any threads. And I'm also pretty much going to avoid the edge here because it's too close to the threads anyway. Now, I want you to remember what it looked like before. This is still pretty dirty. You can see that there's dirt, there's water damage. Yeah, so we'll do this section here. Okay. See what it looks like now. See all that nice movement? It's nice and clean and clear. This might be good enough for some people. This might be good enough for you doing it at home. But somebody paid you to do this. And there's still a little bit of brown there. Okay? So we might have to use some more unorthodox measures in order to get that brown off and still protect the suede. Oh, and by the way, if you needed to cover like a bigger surface area, or if you just wanted to trust yourself that you're not going to scratch anything else, you don't have to get a nice nubuck, or excuse me, a nice suede brush. These are either, I think they're less than $1 at Harbor Freight. Now I'm using this because I'm really working on that dirty spot there. Yeah, I can still see it in certain movements. And that, well, yeah, now I can see it in all movements. All right, so one thing that's unconventional that I always have in my kit of supplies is sandpaper. And this is a tip I got from a professional a professional shoe repair person here in town, and it has worked really well for me. So 320 grit is the roughest grit that you should ever put on any shoe. Now, that grit, really you should only be using for nubuck, okay? For suede, if you use that grit, it's going to start looking like nubuck. If the suede is bad enough, you might want to tell the customer, you know, we're probably going to just have to shave it down so it looks nice. It's going to look like nubuck. I love nubuck. I actually think that nubuck looks nicer than suede, but suede is a more premium material than nubuck is. So for actual suede, I would start at 400. Excuse me. I would start at 600 actually. I have to grab my 600. I would start at 600 and see how it does. And if it's not doing well enough, then I'll switch to 400. But you always want to go with the higher number first because that's the softer grit. I'm going to keep my 600 in here. Here's the 600. I'm going to grab just a little piece because it's just a little thing of dirt there that I'm trying to get up. Now just work on the part that has the dirt. Now I don't even know if the camera is really picking it up all that well, but I can see it in real life. It's shaped like kind of a long triangle right here. That's dirt. It's going to bring the nap down a little bit, so don't be too rough, but you won't notice it, really. You won't. I'll try to work on this part too. I think I can hit this with some 400. Here's some 400. Oh yeah, that worked really well. 400 was my dude. Okay, so, well, sorry. So the spot is gone. Pretty much, the spot is gone. But suppose it wasn't. There is one more measure that I take for like the really tough stuff. Is rubbing alcohol. This is 91% rubbing alcohol. Equate brand, so Walmart brand. I put it in a spray bottle. I mark that spray bottle, okay? My daughter's old enough to read, so she knows what is okay to spray and what isn't. But that's very important. If you have water in a spray bottle, you don't really have to mark it, I don't think. But if you have literally anything else in there, you should mark what it is and keep it up to date if you switch because of safety. Anyway, I use rubbing alcohol and a microfiber towel. I take the microfiber towel, I spray rubbing alcohol onto it. Just about wet my finger. and then I go to the stain and I work the stain. Oh man, it's wet there. Just use dry part of the microfiber towel to help pick up any excess rubbing alcohol. But here's the deal. Rubbing alcohol, you don't want to wet suede. You don't. Some people do, but you really shouldn't. Especially if you have a lot of jobs. You don't want to wait all this time for dry time. So rubbing alcohol is going to dry a lot faster than anything else. It's already wicking into the air. So once you see that is dry, take a look and decide if you need to do another session of rubbing alcohol, and keep doing it until the stain is gone. And then once the stain is gone, then you can use the trusty old shoe polisher. The shoe polisher that is in one of my most watched videos. I filmed that, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, before I really dug into suede care. And honestly, this is something that I just do at the end, or this is something that you do if you just want to see nubuck really get alive. But this is not step one. This is the last step. This really just brings everything out and makes it look nice. It's kind of like looking at a freshly vacuumed rug. It just looks nicer. So I'm gonna go ahead and use it, even though this hasn't dried yet. It'll be fine. All right, so that hasn't dried yet, but we're not going to wait around for that. We're just going to decide once that's dry if we're going to keep doing that. But eventually, it's going to be the same color as everything else. It's just dark because it's a little bit wet. But if you remember what it looked like before and what we look like now, we are super, super clean. And, all of the steps except for the alcohol step were all dry methods. Now, if anyone wants to ask about mink oil or Crep Protect, I try to stay away from that stuff because it has bit me hard in the past. I actually ruined a pair of Off-White 4s because I used mink oil on them before I knew any better. Okay, and it just made the shoe completely dark. And it kind of wetted a little bit too, in a way that I just couldn't get it back alive. So that really sucked. I wouldn't do it personally, but if you feel that you are confident in those products, then by all means do it. I just had a bad experience, so I just leave it alone. It's basically to protect it from wetness in the future. But they can just wear the shoe, and then when it gets dirty again, they could send it to you again, and you can make some more money again. Okay, and that's the truth about business. But also, you didn't ruin their shoe the first time that you cleaned it by spraying some stuff on it. So that's also a good thing. The spreading a word of mouth to get some other business is a good thing. So. Personally, I don't use Crep Protect. I don't use mink oil anymore, but that is up to you. All right, peace.